Tamara Nolan. I'm a senior director with MorganFranklin Cyber, focused on cyber and operational resilience, primarily within crisis management, business continuity, cyber response, and emergency management.
And I'm Matt DeFrain. I'm a managing director in MorganFranklin Cyber practice. I'm focusing on operational resilience, cyber resilience. Been in the space about 25 years. Well, the healthcare industry remains the top target for attacks in the recent years. We're seeing it play out right now in the news. It's a very significant event that's affecting the entire industry in a way that we haven't really seen prior to this in terms of its scale. So I think the threats we can assume are only going to continue. It's going to get worse before it gets better, and it really highlights the need for looking broadly at your connected enterprise inside and outside of just your business to those impacts that could cascade across the sector and impact your patients and your partners and your customers.
Yeah, just to add, this is a threat that's been around for a while, but we are seeing, we're seeing it trend to be a lot more impactful, within the industry. So we're seeing a lot of healthcare organizations, their partners, large scale and small scale, we're seeing them impacted, and just again, as Matt said, highlighting the need to have robust cyber resilience in place to be able to manage these more effectively. There are, and I think a lot of times what happens, based on what's in the news, whether it's the massive cyber threat or whether it's COVID, we tend to kind of focus on whatever the hot topic is, of the day, when in fact there are a lot of threats to not just the healthcare industry, but companies, organizations across domains and across industries. So everything from natural disasters to workplace violence events and other threats, are definitely affecting that. And again, not just the healthcare industry, but industries across the spectrum.
Yeah, and just to add, I'd agree. In addition to cyber, when we talk about making organizations more operational resilient, we look not only at cyber, but all of the factors that could lead to disruptions. And we want to plan accordingly to make sure if it's a physical incident, there's plans and playbooks and processes in place to address that. If it's a cyber incident, the same thing on that side. So we take a kind of an all hazards approach, but because IT recovery and cyber is so complex and nuanced, and we're seeing such an uptick in recent years, there's been just a tremendous focus there. But I think you need to look broadly across the board at disruptions. Just to add to the threat, I mean, cyber threats are trending high. I think you have to also look at the ways the threats are coming, the way the incidents are happening. So we talk about third-party risk management a lot in the cyberspace, and that's been a topic that's been heating up as well, because most of the attack vectors are coming in through less secure third parties that are then, the perpetrators are then able to gain access to other systems, bigger companies that may be more secure, but because they had a less secure connection to a partner, it's a way in, and then you can escalate from there. So, I think we're just seeing more and more spike around that, so it's getting more and more emphasis. So when we look at healthcare organizations from a cyber readiness or preparedness perspective, we often look at regulatory requirements and leading standards as the basis of the readiness or the maturity. So we look at HITRUST a lot, which is a great framework that incorporates a number of different standards around the cyberspace and a number of different regulations. So PCI, for example, the payment security standard is part of that. The ISO 27 series is part of that. So it wraps in a lot of them. And we found that using HITRUST as a standard gets you a long way to alignment with leading practice, and then you can even go one step further and achieve certification if you want to get certified, and it lends more assurance and trust in the marketplace with your partners.
Planning, right? It's all about planning. So taking that that first step and determining what's critical from either a patient care perspective or financial perspective, et cetera, understanding what the critical processes are or clinical services that you provide, and then developing capabilities to manage situations where you don't have access to the technology that supports those critical processes or access to the third parties, because that's really what a ransomware attack or any type of cyber event is doing. It's taking your technology down for an extended period of time. So having plans in place to manage long-term downtime of critical applications, critical third parties, even locations, sometimes having those in place is critical, especially for events like this that are lasting, up to 30 days. By this I mean a cyber event, that are lasting up to 30 days or so. Being prepared to deploy manual workarounds and just really planning for that. And then once the plans are developed, when there are strategies in place to manage a situation manually, without kind of in the absence of technology and third parties, testing those capabilities. So making sure we conduct exercises with people to build muscle memory and also validate strategies, and also test systems and train people.
And just to add to that, I think there's really a number of focus areas, particularly around healthcare right now. Ransomware remains to be a top priority. We're seeing the need for strong cyber controls on the front end, strong resilience in terms of good plans that Tamara was just mentioning around resiliency, recoverability, increased or advanced strategies and solutions around data resilience and data recovery that goes beyond your traditional disaster recovery capabilities, and integration really with crisis management, so that as these events become bigger, more systemic, maybe impacting other companies, a broader set of the infrastructure, you're able to get ahead of that from a messaging perspective, work with your partners, work with the authorities if circumstances warrant as well. Some of the tools we're seeing out there in the market that healthcare providers and other companies are adopting to get ahead of the threat landscape, so to speak. There's a number of different categories. Obviously, security monitoring, having good security operations, good eyes on the network, good alerting, and good follow-through processes from those, so that you don't just get an alert, but you get an alert and you do something about it, right? So that's kind of, you always have to have kind of eyes on your network, eyes on your environment. We're also seeing more advanced solutioning from a data resilience and recovery perspective. So there's tools out there, cloud native tools like Veeam and Rubrik, Zerto are a few, just to name a few of this category that really go beyond traditional DR to deal with data integrity issues, data destruction recovery, data in the cloud. They deal specifically with ransomware in a lot of cases, so we're seeing more and more of those deployed as well. And then TPRM solutions like Process Unity or OneTrust that really manage the risk around your third party and your vendor environment, because again, a lot of those vulnerabilities or weaknesses in the environment will come through those third party partners. So securing those, getting assurances from them that their capabilities are where they need to be in line with the SLAs and the services that you're expecting are of critical importance.
Yeah, and just to add to that too, I mean, Matt and I, we work across industries, so healthcare, being one of our primary focuses, but really making sure that any tools that you do deploy are HIPAA compliant, and just making sure that they meet the requirements of your environment. So I think doing some due diligence around, understanding what the tools are, what they do, and then making sure they meet your compliance requirements as well is just going to be key. So the challenges, one of the big challenges we had historically was buy-in. So it tended to be a very reactive thing to have resilience in place, where organizations would actually have to have an incident, or one of their competitors would have to have an incident before they really considered resilience. And so what we would find is organizations would try to develop plans and capabilities during the adverse event or right afterwards. And so that historically was a challenge, but I think what's trending is people are seeing that this is not a matter of whether or not we're going to get get targeted. It's really a matter of when. So knowing that, I think, is helping organizations get the buy-in from their executive leadership to build resilience into the organization. That said, it's still a challenge, and it's still something that I think a lot of companies, are facing, where I think the people at the technology level recognize the need, but sometimes executive leadership still has the mindset that it's not going to happen to us. And so, getting that executive level buy-in, I think, is key. It's not something that's always budgeted for, resilience. And I know Matt can talk to, what some of the fallout could be if you don't, plan effectively, if you don't have the proper tools in place, what that cost would look like, implementing the tool or capabilities prior to an event, and then what the cost might be if you don't. So there's definitely a value to having something in place prior to an incident.
Yeah, I think to add to that, you almost have to assume you will be attacked, you will get ransomed. We're trying to advocate, invest ahead of time in proper controls and proper resilience, so you're not in a compromised position down the road. You may be anyway, but you might be able to mitigate that risk a bit further, and be in a little bit of a better position when you're making that determination of, what are the next steps on the response. Do we pay the ransom? Do we not pay the ransom? So, we're seeing even the events in the news today, and ongoing of the past few years. I mean, we're talking about tens of millions of dollars of ransom payments, and on the back end of that investment comes anyway, right? Because you're going to put that security in place. So we're really trying to help our clients get ahead of that curve that Tamara's mentioning. Even though it's easier to get that buy-in, it's still not assumed or defaulted to. So there's still a lot of conversations, even with all the awareness and the exposure that we see today, to really take the right steps to put preventative measures and controls in place so that you limit the impact on the back end if something like that happens.
To that point, I mean, what can organizations do to manage the challenges? It's really about investing up front, right, and not waiting for an incident to happen and then reactively trying to build resilience and build resilient capabilities, within the organizations. It's just take the time up front, make the financial investment, and at least, at a minimum, that'll instill customer or client confidence. And so, you'll have that, if nothing else, but it's really based on, having the funding in place, securing that, requesting it, securing it, and then putting the right measures in place up front.
And I'll just add, I think part of that funding would go to team, partner, technology solutions, et cetera, right? And making sure you have the right team in place. You're going a bit beyond just the basic monitoring. You're proactively looking at threats, doing threat hunting, purple teaming exercises, things like that, where you're not just waiting to become a victim. You're going out there and trying to find those threats yourself and get ahead of the game. So I think, as it relates to the investment, making sure all the right pieces of the pie from an organizational team perspective, technology perspective, and sustainment process perspective, if you will, are part of that story. And partners, because you really can't do it alone. There's a lot of solutioning that needs to come into play that can make your life easier, more visible, transparent, what's going on in the environment. So having the right partners to work with, not only from putting in the right technology, but remediation after events and investigations, forensics, things like that become very important as well. MorganFranklin Cyber, we offer a full service cyber shop, end-to-end services, everything from preventative controls through response, recovery, full soup to nuts, if you will. We offer a hosted MSSP solution we refer to as our Cyber Fusion Center, which will provide monitoring solutions, alerting solutions, but we go a step beyond that to offer true support and partnership. From a remediation perspective, we'll bring to bear what we're seeing across our client base to get ahead of threats in a faster way, share knowledge of what we're seeing out in the wild, so to speak, and really help our clients not only identify problems but resolve them. Outside of that, we offer a full suite of solutioning around identity access management, security operations. We lead our cyber and operational resilience suite of services, which really looks to embed resiliency up front and then mitigate the risk or in the impacts of disruptions when they do happen and get back up and running faster. We also have a sister company, Pivot Point Consulting, which specializes in IT, healthcare IT consulting specifically, and we'll often work with them in tandem for healthcare clients to bring that practitioner expertise to the table as well as the cyber expertise, and that's been a very compelling story for the marketplace for us.